intuitive.
You do a terrific job, Jimmy.
No, that's all front. That's all lies. He was making the screen in front of him. It's like you couldn't see through it.
He knew fame and power gave him every door.
I am a voluntary helper. Sometimes, when nobody's looking, I help the lasses.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2022 Netflix documentary Jimmy Savile, A British Horror Story. Now, it's kind of difficult to know really where to start with this. I'll start with the basics really, a bit of housekeeping. The documentary is 2 episodes, about an hour and a half each episode. So it's about 3 hours in total, something like that. And I watched both episodes the other night with my wife. And it actually followed, there was a documentary on Channel 5 in the UK a few days ago that not just focused on Jimmy Savile, it also focused on Rolf Harris, Gary Glitter, as well as the guy from It's a Knockout as well, whose name escapes me at the minute. Now, for those of you who don't know who Jimmy Savile is, I'll give you a little bit of background. I would imagine most people watching this will have a fair idea of who Jimmy Savile is, or certainly will have heard the name. And Jimmy Savile was a popular celebrity in the 70s and beyond. He started off on a TV show called Top of the Pops. He was a famous DJ. Then he went on Top of the Pops, and then he ended up with one of the biggest shows in the UK in the 70s and 80s called Jim Will Fix It, where he got letters from children and he kind of made their dreams come true, whatever they wanted to do. Whether it meet Captain Kirk or be a princess for a day or whatever it would be. It was a massively popular show, and at the height of its popularity, it had about 20 million viewers, which was incredible for a show like that. But he's also famous, Jimmy Savile, for he raised money for charities, he was well connected with politicians and royalty, so on and so forth, and he remained almost legendary status up until his death when he was 84 years old, I believe it was, in around 2012. I'm not 100% on the dates. And then following his death, these revelations came out that Jimmy Savile was in fact a serial paedophile, and he had been abusing primarily children throughout his whole career, right from the 60s, right up until I think the last case recorded was something like 2009. And it completely and utterly shocked the nation. Even though there had been rumours of things like this, nothing had ever been proved, and this documentary actually showed that he was in fact even interviewed by the police in the late noughties about a complaint that was brought about him, but he got away with that. So all of this came out after his death, so a real source of frustration and anger, certainly for the British public, is the fact that this man never had to face a court, had to face his victims, had to face justice. He almost escaped it. Now, if you're a religious person, you will obviously believe that he gets what he deserves in his next life or whatever, going straight to hell, all that kind of stuff. And we'd all like to believe that, I guess. But the cold hard facts are that he never faced justice in his lifetime, which is so frustrating. Now, I think this documentary did actually an excellent job for the most part. The first episode spent a lot of time explaining who he is, what he did. It showed an awful lot of the good he did, if you want to describe it like that, in regards to the fundraising that he did, and the voluntary work and all this kind of stuff. And then it obviously focused on the incredible dark side of this horrifically horrible man. And in actual fact, much of what he did, the good side, was, it would seem, a way for him to groom his victims. And he used his power and his fame to wear this mask in public. And at that time, in the 70s and the 80s, all celebrities of the status of Jimmy Savile were pretty much untouchable. And this documentary, I think, did a really good job of shining a light on that. I even shone a light on a few things I didn't know. And this is a story I've followed fairly closely ever since all this came out after his death, as most people in the UK have. He was incredibly close to the royals, and there's actual footage in this documentary of a journalist who was close to him, who did his biography, has got actual letters from members of the royal family, like Prince Charles and so forth, and Margaret Thatcher as well, the Prime Minister at the time, asking his advice about how they should handle certain situations, because they genuinely thought Jimmy Savile had his finger on the pulse in regards to knowing the British public, and he probably did to some degree. And he's actually giving the royal family advice on how to handle certain situations, which I just found absolutely staggering. They, as well as everybody else, must have been absolutely mortified when they found out the truth of Jimmy Savile. I mean, it absolutely shook the nation first, and probably those shockwaves went, a fair distance throughout the world in regards to the horrific crimes this man committed. It did interview, certainly one of his victims stands out, but it didn't roll them out like on a conveyor belt. That would probably have been in poor taste, but it didn't need to. The nature of his crimes were made very, very clear in this documentary. And it was very, very hard hitting, and at times hard to watch, because he wore this mask in public where he almost admitted what he was doing in interviews and stuff by laughing it off, by sort of saying, "Oh, my case is up next week, and this is all a front," so on and so forth. And it really was, he was genuinely hiding in plain sight for all those years. What a horrible, despicable man. And if this is a story that interests you at all, then you will probably very much, and I'm not sure enjoy is the right word, but I think you'll appreciate this documentary that Netflix has done. And I do think Netflix do a good documentary. I have watched a few of them on there now. So yeah, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's a good documentary, but it's actually quite hard-hitting and quite difficult to watch at the same time. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Thank you very much for watching. I will be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.